The battlefield of 1939 was an explosion of industrial noise, a chaotic symphony of artillery fire and clattering machine guns, where individual human intent was swallowed whole by mass-produced violence. But amid the smoke, a different kind of terror emerged. The quiet, calculated, single-shot lethality of the military sniper. Today, we are stripping away the video game myths and Hollywood glamour to rank 10 of the most prominent sniper rifles utilized during the Second World War. We will map them from the dangerous liabilities that probably should have stayed on the drawing board, all the way to the iconic instruments of precision that permanently altered the landscape of infantry tactics. D tier, the liabilities. The Arisaka Type 97, Japan. Picture this. A lone Japanese soldier clings to the upper branches of a banyan tree in the suffocating humidity of Guadalcanal, his eyes locked onto a jungle trail. He spots an American patrol, exhales, and gently squeezes the trigger. A faint pop echoes through the canopy, followed by a puff of white smoke that instantly betrays his exact position to 20 angry Marines with semi-automatic M1 Garands. On paper, the Type 97 promised to be a stealthy, low-recoil option, perfectly suited for defensive jungle ambushes. It utilized a long barrel paired with the relatively light 6.5mm cartridge, which naturally minimized muzzle flash. In reality, it was a compromise built on systemic shortages. The rifle relied on a weak, underpowered round that lacked devastating stopping power at extreme ranges. To make matters worse, the optics provided by the Empire were rigid, fixed-power scopes with narrow fields of view, making it nearly impossible to track moving targets through thick foliage. The ironic twist is that the very design meant to protect the sniper often doomed them. While the low muzzle flash was a benefit, the lack of a quick detach mechanism for the scope meant that if an enemy closed the distance, the sniper was left holding a highly awkward, overlong bolt-action rifle with zero peripheral vision. It was a weapon that demanded absolute perfection from a soldier, while offering zero structural protection in return. The Carcano M91/38 fixed scope variant, Italy. Picture this. An Italian marksman sits entrenched in the frozen, windswept rocks of the Alpine front, squinting through a frosty lens at a distant target. He tries to adjust his aim for the shifting mountain winds, only to realize his fingers are uselessly fumbling against a scope mount that refuses to budge. On paper, the short, lightweight Carcano action, combined with an affordable, mass-produced optic, seemed like a brilliant way to rapidly field thousands of sharpshooters without draining the industrial treasury. In reality, the execution was a masterclass in bureaucratic corner-cutting. Many of these rifles were issued with low-magnification blocks that were permanently pinned to the receiver at the factory. You couldn't adjust them in the field to compensate for varying wind speeds or sudden shifts in elevation. The unexpected legacy of the Carcano, of course, occurred decades after the war ended, in a sunny plaza in Dallas, Texas. A surplus variant of this exact weapon system became the most scrutinized firearm in human history, debated by forensic experts for generations. But in 1941, to the Italian soldier freezing in the mud, it wasn't a historical artifact. It was a rigid, unyielding tool that punished adaptability. C tier, the flawed workhorses. The Gewehr 41W Sniper, Germany. Picture this. An engineer named Heinrich Walther sits at a brightly lit drafting table in Thuringia, convinced he has solved the puzzle of gas-operated semi-automatic fire without drilling a single hole in the rifle's precious barrel. On paper, the Gewehr 41 was supposed to be Germany's high rate-of-fire answer to the Soviet semi-automatics, allowing a sniper to quickly follow up a missed shot without breaking their cheek weld to cycle a manual bolt. In reality, The complex bang gas system, which trapped expanding gases at the very tip of the muzzle, was an absolute nightmare in the field. Carbon buildup fouled the mechanism within hours. The rifle was notoriously front-heavy, making it incredibly fatiguing to aim for extended periods. The ultimate irony was that the weapon designed to give the sniper an advantage in speed actually slowed them down. It didn't have a detachable box magazine, meaning a stressed marksman had to manually reload the heavy, jammed rifle using individual stripper clips while under fire. It was a fascinating engineering experiment that ultimately proved too delicate for the raw brutality of the Eastern Front. The Springfield M1903A4, United States. Picture this. A U.S. Army sniper crawls through the dense hedgerows of Normandy in the summer of 1944. He spots an enemy machine gun nest, raises his rifle, and finds himself staring into a dark, foggy blur because a morning drizzle has seeped straight into his unsealed commercial scope. On paper, the M1903A4 was a highly accurate, reliable bolt-action rifle built on a legendary, time-tested action that had already proven itself during the Great War. In reality, the United States entered World War II remarkably unprepared for dedicated sniper doctrine. Instead of manufacturing a rugged, military-grade optic, the government rushed production by mounting commercial Weaver 330 scopes onto the rifles. These optics lacked adequate weatherproofing and offered a meager 2.5x magnification. The design team even forgot a critical detail. The scope was mounted directly over the receiver, which completely blocked the use of standard stripper clips. Snipers had to hand-feed every single cartridge into the chamber, one by one. That is not a minor inconvenience. That is a dangerous bottleneck when you were trying to suppress an enemy counterattack. B tier, the reliable standards. The K31 Karabiner sniper variant, Switzerland. Picture this. A Swiss border guard stands perfectly motionless in a hidden concrete bunker tucked high into the Alps, his straight-pull rifle resting on a sandbag as he watches a German patrol move along the frontier. On paper, the Swiss K31 is a mechanical masterpiece, featuring a unique straight-pull bolt action that allows for incredibly fast cycling alongside unmatched manufacturing tolerances. In reality, the weapon performed flawlessly, but its placement on this list is hindered by a complete lack of operational context. Because Switzerland maintained strict neutrality throughout the global conflict, this highly advanced rifle never faced the true, unforgiving test of prolonged industrial combat. The design itself featured a highly unusual offset scope mount to allow for top loading, which required the marksman to hold a slightly awkward, canted head position to aim. It remains a triumph of precision engineering, but a weapon's true legacy is forged in the crucible of battle, not the safety of an alpine testing range. The Enfield No. 4 Mark I-T, Great Britain. Picture this. A British scout crouches in the shattered ruins of a Belgian town, tracking a target through the crisp optics of a No. 32 telescopic sight. He cycles the bolt with a smooth flick-of-the-wrist motion, keeping his eyes firmly on the target as the next .303 round slips into the chamber. On paper, the T variant was a highly specialized conversion of the standard infantry rifle, individually selected from factory lines for its exceptional barrel accuracy, and then hand-fitted with a wooden cheekpiece. Where it succeeded was its sheer ruggedness and speed. The Enfield action was famously smooth, and its 10-round magazine capacity was double that of its contemporary rivals. The lingering issue was the .303 British rimmed cartridge. If the rounds were not loaded into the magazine with absolute precision, the rims could catch on one another, causing a catastrophic feeding jam known as rim lock. Even with that quirk, the Enfield No. 4 Mark I-T earned a fearsome reputation as a robust, no-nonsense tool that kept British and Commonwealth scouts alive in every theater of operations. A tier, the icons of the front line. The Mosin-Nagant 9130 PU, Soviet Union. Picture this. A young woman named Lyudmila Pavlichenko lies perfectly still under a pile of dead leaves near Odessa, waiting hours for a single German officer to step into the crosshairs of her PU scope. On paper, the Mosin-Nagant was an aging, rugged design from the late 19th century, but when paired with the simple, durable 3.5x PU optic, it became an absolute mass production marvel. The Soviet Union didn't treat sniping as an elite niche specialty. They treated it as an industrial necessity, training tens of thousands of men and women to hunt invading forces systematically. The 9130 was crude, its bolt was notoriously heavy to operate, and the trigger pull felt like breaking a glass rod. But it worked. It worked in the scorching dust of the Crimean summer, and it worked when the grease froze solid at -40 degrees during the defense of Moscow. The single number that defines this weapon system is 309. That is the confirmed kill count of Lyudmila Pavlichenko, a statistic carved out of the landscape using a rifle that was often described as little more than a sharpened tent pole with a scope attached. The Karabiner 98K mit Zielfernrohr, Germany. Picture this. A seasoned German sharpshooter rests the hand-checkered stock of his Mauser against a brick wall in the ruins of Stalingrad, adjusting his 4-power Zeiss scope to account for a target ducking between industrial buildings. On paper, the Mauser 98 action was, and still is, considered the gold standard of bolt-action design, featuring a controlled feed claw extractor that made double feeding a mechanical impossibility. When the German industry paired this action with high-end optical firms like Zeiss and Hensoldt, they created an incredibly lethal, highly precise instrument of denial. The optics were crystal clear, giving German marksmen a massive advantage during the low-light hours of dawn and dusk. The unexpected failure wasn't the rifle itself, but the chaotic, over-engineered nature of German procurement. They utilized dozens of different experimental scope mounts throughout the war. Turret mounts, side mounts, sweeping long eye-relief scout mounts, which created a logistical nightmare for supplying replacement parts to the front lines. Yet, in terms of raw mechanical accuracy and optical clarity, the Karabiner 98K was a premier tool of professional marksmen.
S tier, the game changers. The SVT-40 sniper variant, Soviet Union. Picture this. A Red Army sniper unclips a 10-round box magazine, slaps a fresh one into the receiver of his semi-automatic rifle, and single-handedly suppresses an entire advancing German infantry squad from a concealed ridgeline. On paper, the SVT-40 was a revolutionary concept. A reliable, gas-operated semi-automatic rifle firing a full-powered main battle cartridge, issued with a quick-detach PU scope mount. Where it succeeded was in its visionary foresight. It offered an unprecedented volume of accurate fire, allowing a lone sniper to engage multiple targets in rapid succession without the telltale movement of manually cycling a bolt action after every shot.
The ironic twist is that while many average Soviet conscripts found the rifle too complex to maintain properly, elite German marksmen recognized its immense value immediately. German units went out of their way to capture operational SVT-40s, and the German high command kept rushing copies of the manual to their own troops. Stay with us, because what this rifle did was lay the structural blueprint for the entire post-war philosophy of the dedicated marksman rifle. The top closer, the M1C Garand, United States. We have reached the absolute peak of the list, and the top spot belongs to a weapon that didn't just win firefights, it fundamentally redefined how a modern military integrates precision fire into the standard squad dynamic. The M1C Garand. Picture this. An American infantry squad finds itself pinned down by an unseen sniper in a dense European village. Instead of waiting for a specialized asset to be called up from headquarters, the squad's own designated marksman steps forward with a semi-automatic weapon that can fire 8 consecutive armor-piercing rounds as fast as he can pull the trigger. On paper, mounting a scope to John Garand's masterpiece was an engineering nightmare because the rifle loaded from the top using an 8-round N-block clip. If you put a scope directly over the receiver, you couldn't load the gun. The engineers solved this with a stroke of practical genius. They offset the entire scope mount to the left side of the receiver. This allowed the M1C to retain its rapid, semi-automatic firepower while giving the operator a clear optical view just inches to the side of the bore. It wasn't designed for poetic, one-shot, one-kill duels at 1,000 yards. It was designed to provide rapid, devastating, semi-automatic precision at mid-ranges. The historical ripple effect of the M1C cannot be overstated. It shifted the sniper away from being a lonely, isolated specialist hiding in a tree and transformed them into an integrated, force-multiplying component of the modern infantry squad. It proved that volume of fire and precision accuracy did not have to be mutually exclusive concepts. What do you think of this ranking? Would you trust your life to the rugged simplicity of the Mosin-Nagant, or do you think the semi-automatic firepower of the M1C deserves the crown? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one and use your feedback to shape our upcoming deep dives into military history. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next video, where we will be looking at something in a completely different category of escalation. See you out there!